Hi everyone, it's Stephanie from Stamp with Stephanie, and I am here to show you how I put together the second card in our November Stamp of the Month kit. So again, this kit is to go with the November Stamp of the Month. I've got some of my stamps out because they're ready to be used, so I'm going to put some white behind it. So this is the set of stamps you get for the November Stamp of the Month, You Warm My Heart. And as purchasers of this stamp set or VIP members, you get the assembly directions for 4 different creations using this piece, designed by me. So this is card number 2 in the set, and it is a fun fold card. So it's got this little band that moves, and then the card opens up, and I haven't done the inside yet. So this card is the card that we're going to make today. So let's get started. All right, so I pre-cut all my pieces to make this kind of efficient. Actually, I'm going to leave this up in the top so we can see what we're working towards. And I'm going to start with all of the stamping. So this band is going to be put aside. These pieces we'll talk about in a minute, but we'll put them aside for now. Let's see. This is my cover piece. And when I do random stamping, like I did on this one, I find it easier to just use a separate sheet of paper, and then I will glue it onto my card base, which is this one. So when you get the set, you will get the card base plus a sheet of paper that is the size of the front of the base, just so that you can do the stamping separately. And then you have the colorful base piece. That is the part that you can see on the edge here. And we're going to need to stamp on it. And then this other square one, or rectangle, is just the bottom. So you have a little bit of stability, and also the band is going to attach between the two. It'll go behind the green, so then on the white, your back is just clean white. So that's all you have there. That's the base piece. So I'm going to put the card pieces aside and get ready to do the stamping. Oh, and then there's one more white piece because I'm going to need to stamp the cup, the lid, and the little whipped cream dollops separately. So we'll have that too. So let's start with stamping. I'm going to work on this border on my evergreen piece. For that border, I actually used the middle of the cup. I liked this snowflake pattern. So to do that, I'm going to use, and I wanted it basically tone on tone, so I used the evergreen paper and evergreen ink pad. All right, so I know I say this all the time, but you want to use a foam mat under what you're stamping, because our stamps are just on blocks. We don't have the rubber that you would in a rubber stamp. So you're replicating that by putting foam under what you're stamping on. The mat that I'm using is foam, which is just a big piece from the craft store. But if you don't have that, all of our stamps have the foamy thing in them. Just use that. But you definitely want to put foam under there. And I need scratch paper because I'm going to go off of my pieces. So I'll just get scratch paper out of my printer box. Okay, let's do this. So I'm going to make sure my whole card is over the foam. And I'm going to ink up my whole mug, but I really only care, or my whole coffee cup, but I really only care about getting ink in the middle. And then I am just going to consistently do it the same direction. And since I only want the middle pattern, I'm going to stand up so I can get over it. Since I only want the part in the middle, I'm just going to make sure that that makes it on my page and stamp it down. And it doesn't matter that I have the bottom of the cup because it's going to get covered. And then this is the part where it's really helpful that we have clear blocks. I'm going to use this line, and I'm going to line it up. You probably won't be able to see in the camera, but if you stand over the stamp, you can. So I'm going to do my best to line it up, and it's okay if there's some overlap because the cup is actually oval, or not straight, but it did work. And it'll just go almost a continuous pattern that way. So it's going to take, looks like about 4 to do each side. Uh-oh, that's not good. I'm going to see if I can fix that. I must have gone off of my foam there, so I'm going to move my foam and just use my large pad so that doesn't happen. So I'm going to see if I can fix that. I like that. That might be close enough because that might be covered. We'll see when I put the thing on. So I'm going to go ahead and finish it. And also, that is a convenient reminder that part of the joy of making cards is that they're all different and they're all not perfect. So if it's obvious that it's handmade, that is not a bad thing. All right, so I'm deciding that that's okay. And I am going to do the exact same thing on my other line. So you can see where this one didn't stamp out, but I think it's going to be covered. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So I want as much of my image as I can. And I'm just going to keep going. I want to ink each time because I want to make sure it stays first generation, nice and dark, so that it shows on this green paper. And you can play with how much of the pattern actually shows too. This card has it a little further down or a little further up than the other one did. And it will still work beautifully, but it'll look a little different. Okay, so that is this pattern, the green little bit that you could see on the outside of the card. So I'm going to put that away so that it dries a little bit before I mess with it. And I am going to do the stamping on what will become my cover piece. So this one is mostly random stamped. It's not quite true random stamping because the space is too small. Because ideally, when you random stamp, you want to do it in kind of triangles with 3s, but to look more balanced. But I didn't have enough room because I really wanted this sweetie pie. So I'm going to start with that because I want to make sure I have room to put it. I also wanted my sweetie pie, or my pie with the sweetie pie, to be a little bit not the same orange it comes out. So this is a first generation of the stamp. The first time I stamp it, pretty dark. And then the second time I stamp it, it's still going to be visible, but it's going to be lighter. So that's second generation stamping, and I get a lighter version of the stamp. So I'm going to do that again to make sure I put this pie on my page at least one more time. So there's my first generation, just to lighten it up. And I'm going to let this one go off a little. And there is my second generation. I forgot my cleaning cloth, so I'll be right back. I forgot I would have to wipe off stamps, so let me get that for us because I want to put the image in those pies, which means I need to clean the pie off of my pad. Ugh. And to wipe my stamp, I'm just using our stamped chamois. I just got it wet because I had let mine dry out. And I just keep a tub of water to do that quickly and easily. All right, so I'm going to remove my pie, but I'm actually going to put the sweetie pie. Yeah, it won't fit inside. So I'm going to line up sweetie pie on this. Why did I pull out cutie? Whoops, I wanted sweetie. I have to get the right stamp, sorry. Okay, so I want in my pie right along it to say sweetie pie. So I'm going to use a stamp base and just line it up. Sweetie and pie. And then I'm going to look through the stamp and make sure that it looks straight. That looks pretty good. And I don't know if I want this one to be darker. I think I might. So I might do this one first generation. So that's still paprika. Oh yeah, I colored this in second generation paprika. So that's the orangey brown color. Because my stamp's too big, I want to make sure my block is too big. I want to make sure that I wipe off anywhere extra that I got ink, so I don't ink my card piece. And then since I can see through the stamp, I'm just going to line it up so that it looks like it's on the side of the pie. I like that. Okay. So I think on the original card I did both in second generation, but I think I like the sweetie pie in first generation. And on this one, it's going to go off a little bit, so I'm going to angle it so I can see as much as possible. But that's kind of what makes it look like I just cut up a piece of pattern paper. So that's good. When you do your own stamping background, you do want to let your pieces go off of the edge. And you want to turn them around in different directions. Okay, so I started with the biggest pieces. I'm actually going to go to the next biggest, which is the candy canes. So I'm going to see where I can fit them. And I wanted reddish candy canes, but since there's a brownie orange here, I decided to use cinnamon because it has more of a brown, darker tone in it. So I'm going to use cinnamon, and I'm just going to stamp these candy canes kind of wherever. And we'll get some of them to show, but some of them will be going off. So like I'm going to put one around this corner, but mostly going off. I'm going to put one down here. And these are going to look different every time, right? And this one already looks a bit different than my example based on where and how I put the pies and how many candy canes I use. So we'll put one actually going here on this one. Okay, the other cool thing about stamping your own backgrounds, it's easiest if you work biggest to smallest, and then you know how much room you have to fill in. So I did my pies, I did my candy canes, and this is what you kind of want when I said 3 with a random stamping. So I've got 1, 2, 3, kind of making a triangle, or there's one here too. So that's kind of the goal with random stamping. If you use a little bit of a triangle, it kind of looks balanced like. Before I add my snowflakes to cover all my extra space, I want to do these little whipped cream things that are on the pie. But I decided that my whipped cream needed to actually cover the line, and I was too lazy to color for this one. So I am going to find that scrap paper so that I can stamp my whipped cream and just cut it out. So I'm going to stamp my whipped cream in pewter. It's a gray color that'll give me kind of a good outline. And I want it light, so I'm going to do that one second generation also. So I'm going to take my pewter and I'm going to just stamp it once on the scratch paper right around my pie, doesn't matter. And then I'm going to stamp it on my paper that I'm going to cut out. So I just want to give enough room from the edge to be able to cut it out. And I have 2 pies, so I want 2 whipped cream dollops. So there's my whipped cream. And that's going to get cut out and go on the base. But while I am ready with my pewter, I'm going to go ahead and do my cup lid. Where is my cup lid? Oh, I forgot to pull my cup lid out because that's going to go on the scratch paper to be cut out too. Let's see. So here is my lid. And I think I want that nice and dark. So I think I'm going to do that first generation. I'll just stamp it straight down. So I'm going to cut these out. So I need 2 of them. I need 2 of them because I have a cup that's the main one on the front. That'll be whichever one turns out the best. But I also did it on the back, partly for stability because this part gets messed with, and partly because it's prettier. So I have 1 for the back, 1 for the front. So I need 2 coffee cup lids. Okay, so these are the things that I'm going to cut out. Actually, I may as well finish the things that I'm going to cut out and go ahead and do the coffee cups. I decided to do the coffee cup to bring back in the evergreen, so I'm going to go ahead and do that one again. So here's my evergreen, and I'm going to ink up my cups. I think I can fit 2 if I go this way, so we're going to try that. Actually, there's stuff on that, so we'll use the other side of that one. This time I actually want the whole cup, so I'm going to make sure I ink it up well. And just stamp it down as far over as I have room. Okay, there's 1 of them. And then I'm going to do the same thing because I want 1 for front and 1 for back. Yeah, I don't know if this is going to work. I might need more paper. Maybe I can angle them. That could help. Okay, so here's my 2 cups. Oh, good. And they didn't go over. Perfect. So this is the page of things I'm going to need to cut out. And to be able to finish my background, I think I will go ahead and cut out the dollops now. I do not love fussy cutting, and I really wish they gave us thin cuts with the stamp of the month, but these shapes aren't too bad. So on the whipped cream, I'm just following the curves as best I can, and it does not need to be perfect. And I'm just following those with my non-stick micro tip scissors, which are awesome. And the smaller scissors really make it easier to cut these out. I had some rough edges there. Okay, so here is 1 to go on my cover, and here is going to be the other. So I'm just going to run around it real quick. And I could go in and follow the lines better, but I think I'm just going with close enough for now. The only reason I cut this out is because I wanted it to, cover the lines of the pie that it looked like it was on top of without having to color it. So you could also alternatively color your pies in. So I'm going to bring my page back and go ahead and glue these. Where's my glue? Glue these where I want them. And the reason I wanted to do this before I did the snowflakes is so I can see how much room I have left. In case the whipped creams go into what I thought would be a blank space. And the cool thing, I had an ink boo-boo here, but I can cover it with the whipped cream. Problem solved. Okay, so now I just have some small spaces. So I'm going to bring back the pewter and the smallest stamp that I want to use on these to fill in some of this white space. So here's my ink. This is pewter again. And this time I'm going to do first and second generation. And you see I did that in this card too. There's a dark one, then I stamped again second generation. So I actually have both on the paper. So I'm going to put a dark one down here and then a light one up here in the middle. And then I'm going to re-ink and do it again over here, and a lighter one down here, part off the paper. And I think I need one or two more sets of two. So I'm going to do a good dark one coming off here, maybe a light one over here by this candy cane. Uh-oh. And this is a good reminder to make sure you're remembering to wipe off your block in between. I forgot. So now I have to put some snowflakes over where I didn't wipe well enough. Okay. So that looks about finished. A reasonable amount of white space. So this is my cover, or my, yeah, it'll be over the card base. So this is my main cover of the card. So I have now the bottom, the green piece, and then I'm going to have my card in the middle, and I have these glittery pieces that are basically paprika color. They match the color I did my pie in. So the trick with these is that I don't actually have that color in glitter paper. So I used white glitter paper. That's kind of like a staple, right? White glitter paper for everything. I used the white glitter paper, and I cut a 1/2 inch strip, 5.5 inches, long enough to do the card. And I decided that 1/2 inch was actually too wide. So I cut that in half. So these are each a 1/4 inch. I'm telling you to go 1/2 inch because it's easier to do all the coloring at once. So what you're going to do is cut your 1/2 inch of white glitter paper and color it in. And I'll just show you how that works with the small piece, so you don't have to totally watch me color, but you get the idea. So to get this paprika color, I used our amazing tri-blend markers. I used burnt orange blend, and I used the darkest version. So it's burnt orange BO4. And then with the long piece, because remember I did this in a 1/2 inch by 5.5, I just colored right over the edge, all the way over. When you get to an edge, you really can touch it, or you can fold your scrap paper over and hold it, but either way will work. And you just make sure you get all around the edge, and then you get this really pretty orangey color that perfectly matches the paprika. So again, that was the burnt orange deep blend tri-blends, and it's the particular one I used just then is BO, burnt orange 4, the darkest one. So then you would have this nice long piece that I didn't want to take the time to color in front of you, that you'd cut in half, so you get these 1/4 inch pieces. So I'm actually going to go ahead and lay down my card on this so I can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to get the card that opens, make sure it's not upside down or anything, and I'm going to glue it into the middle of my base. And you could use our Versamat or a ruler and actually measure the middle, or since it's a card, you could just eyeball. Or you could make sure that it covers whatever boo-boo you made, like me, on the outside that you need covered. And then just line it up so it looks about centered. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use my scratch paper to run glue over this because I'm going to get rid of it after this. Line up my colored white glitter pieces. What I was just doing was I had some glue that went right over the edge, so I just tucked it back under. Make sure these glitter pieces line up right next to the white. And do the same thing with the other one. And we are nearly, for this glitter piece, to make sure it sticks because it's a little heavier, you do want to make sure you get glue all the way up and down it. And then line one up to the other side. And if anything didn't come out totally exact, now would be a good time to flip over and trim. See, my white is sticking out just the tiniest of bits on there, so I'm just going to trim it off. With my sharp scissors again. And now it's all the same size. So there's pretty much my card. And remember, you could actually stamp on this. I just find it easier in case I mess up and want to turn over to have a separate piece. So now I'm going to glue that onto my base. And this goes right on top of the white base. And it should actually line up pretty exactly. It could be trimmed if needed. Okay, so make sure it opens, nothing glued shut. Not that I've ever done that. Alright, so there is most of the card. The only thing I haven't done is glue it to its back because it needs this band. So I'm going to go back to my scratch papers and cut out the other two parts. I need my cup so that I can see where I want it to line up so I can see the band. So I'm going to cut close to the cup on this side so I know where I need to cut for the lids too. Okay. So here's, again, I'm sorry you have to watch me cut, but I'll be quick about it. It's just that since I did the stamping live, I had to do the cutting live. So just follow the lines. I find that if you actually leave white, it's easier and a little bit more forgiving. So there's one of them. And here's the second one. This is probably going to be the back because it's got a little bit of fuzziness in the ink up near the top. Sorry, I wasn't cutting under there, but you guys know how to cut. It just takes a minute. And just follow the edges. Okay, so there's my two mugs, cups. And when I stick them together, they're actually really close. When I glue them together, I can trim really just this top. Yeah, so that'll work perfectly. And then I need to go back and cut out the lids. And same idea, just cut near the lines, follow the shape as much as you can or want. And you're going to glue them together and then just trim if they're different. So don't worry about it as you're cutting. If you're doing this with some other stamp set and they're not the same size, so you can't really do a front and a back, what you might want to do, you could just leave it, or you could back it. You could put it on some kind of circle or a mat, and then you could do two of the circle so that on the flip side you would just have the circle backing. Okay, so I am going to glue my pieces together. Oh, I can't glue them together because I want the band. So I'm going to line it up to figure out where I want it. And I want to cover my end of the band, so something like this. And then I just decide where I want it on the card. I want to show as much of the sweetie pie as I can since that's kind of my sentiment. So I'm probably going to go about here. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this on the end of the band so it doesn't move on me. So I want it, that's the piece I want in front. No, that's the piece I want in front. And I want it to cover the end, so about like that. So you just line it up on your band, and then we'll go ahead and glue the other side. Remember, don't glue them together early like I almost did, because you want one on each side of the band. That's why you're doing two. Line them up as close as they come so that you can do the least amount of trimming. And then anything that bothers you because it pokes or shows on one side or the other, just do a really quick trim. So like there's some pieces down there that didn't quite match. Tear it so it goes behind. So the front looks pretty good. The back is a little bit different shaped. So just fix the whole top and a little bit there-ish. So now I am satisfied with how it looks. So I'm going to put it where I want it to be on the card, which is about there. And I'm going to bend this piece so that it folds where I want it. And then I'm going to make it a prettier fold and actually burnish it. But I wanted to get it started to make sure it's in the right place. And then I'm just going to burnish with my bone folder so I have a nice flat fold so it'll stay mostly closed. And then I just slide it back over, make sure I line it up where I wanted it. About there is good. And flip the card over and glue that piece on the back of the card. And I want a lot, I'm out of glue, a lot of glue here. Sorry, I need a lot of glue. Alright, so I want a lot of glue here because this part is obviously going to be messed with. It's okay if I went where the band doesn't go because the rest of this is going to glue on my base anyway. So glue your band down, find the bone folder again, and really burnish that because this part is messed with. And then we're almost done. This whole piece goes on the base. So we're just going to add glue at the edges, back over the band. I'm doing more glue than I usually do because fun fold cards kind of get messed with more. Then make sure it's whichever direction you want it to be. If you had a boo-boo on the paper, you want to go ahead and cover over that so that your back looks clean. Line it up. That was not lined up. Whoops. Okay. Line it up better than I do because I'm going to have to do some trimming. So the straighter you line it up, the easier it's going to be. I got to talking and messed that up. So I'm going to need to trim some of mine. Fortunately, it'll be okay. It's really just for stability. So I'm just going to trim wherever I messed it up so that I don't have white hanging out onto my lovely green card. My first one went on much straighter. I think I was distracted by talking. Right, so then you have the green is pretty much all you can see, but on the back you don't see that band except where I messed up. So you have a nice clean back where you can put your Made with Love by your name. So that is Stamp of the Month card number 2. Whoops, I forgot the lids. Those just add glue on the, well, it doesn't matter because they're going to glue together. So just add glue, but don't set it down because you're going to glue the other one right onto the back. I tend to just put glue on both of them, line them up close, and they really typically don't need trimming. They'll pretty much just work. There we go. So we almost forgot to finish the card. Now we have the coffee cup, lid and all, and the sentiment. And I would stamp Happy Holidays, or You Warm My Heart, or something inside, and add whatever you want. So that is card number 2. I hope you enjoyed my video and I've inspired you to create with your Stamp of the Month. And if you did buy it this month from me, you will receive in the mail the pieces, the paper pieces to make this. So you'll have the green base, the little piece of glitter paper that you would have to color or leave white, and some scratch paper to cut off the extra pieces. So you'll have the paper to use the Stamp of the Month to make this. All right, guys, thanks for watching and happy crafting. Bye.